TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donation. Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. Non-essential U.S. government personnel and their families have been advised to depart Israel today. Omani Foreign Minister Abdulsaidi travels to Washington in a desperate attempt to dissuade the United States from attacking Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asserts that Israel is powerful because it knows history is not going to give the Jewish people another chance. The United States has urged non-essential embassy staff in Jerusalem who would like to leave Israel ahead of a looming attack against the Ayatollah regime in Iran to do so immediately. In an email sent by U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee at 10:24 a.m. local time earlier today, the American diplomat warned that those wishing to leave should do so today. Moreover, according to a New York Times report that first published this story, Ambassador Huckabee stressed urgency, quote, "The first priority will be getting expeditiously out of the country," urging his staff to find a flight out of Ben Gurion International Airport to any destination from which they could book passage onward to the United States. It is important to note that the email to U.S. Embassy staff in Jerusalem has been sent merely 2 days prior to the expiration of President Donald Trump's first stated deadline of 10 days, which the American leader had announced on February 19th. Moreover, according to officials familiar with details of yesterday's negotiations in Geneva, Switzerland, Iran had essentially rejected all of America's demands related to the Islamic Republic's nuclear program, irrespective of the fact that Tehran continues to refuse to negotiate on its ballistic missiles program, which U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio explicitly stressed is a big problem. Interestingly enough, the Ayatollah regime's lead negotiator, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, apparently failed to realize that rejecting all of America's demands cannot be characterized as good progress.
During
these several long and very intensive hours, we made good progress and very seriously entered into the elements of a possible agreement, both in the nuclear field and in the area of sanctions. On some issues, we have now become very close to an understanding. On certain other issues, we still have differences of opinion.
Minister Araghchi continued by highlighting sanctions relief as a topic that was clearly relayed to the U.S. delegation via Omani mediation, insisting that during the next round of talks, anticipated next week, Iran would enter into the discussions in more detail, even though the United States had been unequivocal in its position that sanctions relief was not on the table at this stage.
On the issue of sanctions relief, we clearly presented our demands, what we expect and what needs to be achieved. Regarding the U.S. unilateral sanctions, their various dimensions, as well as the discussions in the UN Security Council, the differences of opinion concerning these sanctions and what should happen were clearly stated from our side. It was decided that in the next session, we will go into this discussion in more detail.
Omani Foreign Minister Abdulsaidi released a statement after yesterday's negotiations in which he insisted that significant progress was achieved while expecting talks to resume after consultations in their respective capitals. However, shortly after making this post, it was revealed that the Omani Foreign Minister prepared to travel to Washington today in a desperate attempt to persuade the Trump administration not to attack the Islamic Republic of Iran. Among others, Minister Abdulsaidi is scheduled to meet Vice President Vance to convince President Trump's second-in-command that a war with Iran could force the United States into an undesirable, lengthy campaign. The anticipated meeting was announced after Vice President Vance, in an interview with the Washington Post, reaffirmed his hopes for a diplomatic breakthrough, saying he remains a skeptic of foreign military interventions, a description he believes also applies to President Trump. However, while one knows how a war sparks, yet cannot possibly assess its outcome, Vice President Vance nonetheless insists that there is no chance that an American military campaign against the Ayatollah regime in Iran would result in the United States becoming involved in a years-long, drawn-out war. Instead, Vance argued, quote, "I do think we have to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. I also think that we have to avoid overlearning the lessons of the past. Just because one president screwed up a military conflict doesn't mean we can never engage in a military conflict again. We've got to be careful about it, but I think the president is being careful." Meanwhile, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning has called for a peaceful resolution.
We are paying close attention to the development of the situation in Iran. China has always advocated solving problems through political and diplomatic channels and opposes the use or threat of use of force in international relations. The peoples of China and Iran have traditionally enjoyed friendly ties. China supports the Iranian government and people in safeguarding national stability and legitimate rights and interests. We hope that all parties will cherish peace, exercise restraint, and resolve differences through dialogue. China is willing to continue to play its role as a responsible major country to this end.
Meanwhile, in Tokyo, the Japanese government announced that it has stepped up efforts to secure the release of a Japanese citizen, a journalist, who was arrested by the Ayatollah regime in Tehran.
The Japanese government can confirm that a Japanese national in Tehran was detained by local authorities on January 20th local time. The government has been strongly demanding the swift release of this individual ever since the details of their detention came to light. We are maintaining contact with and providing necessary support to the individual, their family, and other relevant parties. We intend to continue to provide all possible assistance to safeguard this individual.
Efforts to secure the release of Shinosuke Kawashima, who serves as the bureau chief of Japan's public broadcaster NHK, has not been successful to date. Turning to Geneva, where the UN Human Rights Council High Commissioner raised the alarm over ongoing regime brutality against civilians throughout Iran.
The situation in Iran remains volatile after the authorities killed thousands in a lethal crackdown in January. Recent days have seen a new wave of protests at universities, making it clear that the underlying grievances remain. There are continued reports of repression, including arrests and pressure on academic spaces. Thousands of people are still missing. I'm horrified by reports that at least 8 people, including 2 children, have been sentenced to death in connection with the protests. Another 30 are reportedly at risk of the same sentence. I urge independent, impartial, and transparent investigations, fair trial guarantees, and an immediate moratorium on the death penalty. I'm extremely alarmed about the potential for regional military escalation and its impact on civilians, and I hope the voice of reason prevails.
Turning to Jerusalem, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed a delegation of UN ambassadors visiting Israel earlier this week, during the course of which he highlighted that the plague of anti-Semitism continues to fester globally.
People thought that after the Holocaust, anti-Semitism would disappear. No, it just took a rest, a brief respite. It's come back. The only thing that has changed is not what they say about the Jews or what they say about the Jewish state. They say the same thing about us. The one thing that has changed is that when they come to slaughter us, we have the capacity to defend ourselves. We've just emerged from a 7-front war. And the chants that they were shouting, these monsters of Hamas. Did you go to Gaza? Did you go to? Yeah. Well, they chanted death to Israel, death to America. They slaughtered every man, woman, and child they could get their hands on. They would have slaughtered all of us if they could, but they couldn't, because we rolled them back. But not only them, the whole Iran axis, which keeps them alive. Hamas, Hezbollah, Assad regime, Houthis, Iran itself, these various militias, we rolled them back. That is what has changed.
Prime Minister Netanyahu continued by emphasizing Jerusalem's determination to ensure the eternal preservation of the Jewish people.
Israel is now, today, it's a very small country, but it's a very powerful country. It's powerful not only because of technology, that too. Not only because of science, that too. It's powerful because of the spirit of the people. It's powerful because we know that history is not going to give us another chance. This is it. There's so many miracles that a people can perform. Coming back from the dead, breaking all the rules of history, because you can't come back from the dead, but we did. And we are completely committed to protecting our future, ensuring a region of prosperity and security and peace, not only for us, but for all those who join us.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers just like yourself. If you would like to help support TV7 Israel, which is exclusively donation-based, as we aim to update you on the latest and decipher the most complex issues related to Israel, the Middle East, and beyond, you can donate via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom u'Mevorach. God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.